EWTN News Nightly. Join us tonight.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. With today's host, Father Mitch Pacwa. In North America, call toll-free 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 1-833-288-3986. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also text the letters EWTN to 55000 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A tremendous Wednesday to each and every one of you. Thanks so much for tuning in to EWTN's Open Line. Father Mitch is in the house. Fasten your seatbelts. If you've got a question for the Padre, the number is 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and we will put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can always send us an email, openline@ewtn.com, or you can text your question to Father Mitch. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question. Message and data rates may apply. I'm Jack Williams. Michael McCall produces the program. Your call screener is Mr. Ryan Penny. And Jeff Burson, fantastic person, is handling our social media endeavors. So if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can see me struggling to get my headphones untangled. And
I didn't
you can
tangle
also
them.
no, and you can also type a question into that chat window, preferably not about my headphones, and we may get to it by the end of the hour. Our host, as he is every single Wednesday, Father Mitch Pacwa. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
All right, I'm wired for sound now.
Okay,
we're ready
good.
to go. You got a couple of emails there?
Yes, I do. This is from Misty, who asks, how is the phrase weaker vessel in 1 Peter 3:7 to be understood with reference to women? Is Peter here saying that women are weaker than men physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, or something else meant? He means primarily physically. I don't know that he had any other ideas. There's just, in the case of the vast majority of men and women, women are not physically as strong as men. They don't have as much muscle mass in general. There are exceptions. But it's because of that you don't have women playing tackle on football teams. It's just not, that's not
how
their
they're
strength.
created.
Yeah, and there's, in fact, women have more fatty tissue, so they can store up food for when they're nursing and when they're bearing children. It's a different structure, and that's just a different. Now, again, there are exceptions, and there's some very strong women, and that's the reality. But he's talking about, especially in the ancient world, women were very vulnerable if they were not protected by a man, their father, their brothers, or their husband. They became very, very vulnerable. That's one of the reasons that you see extra mention about care for widows as well as orphans, because there are simply men out there who would use their physical strength to take advantage of women simply because they physically can. No other reason. And that's why Israel's called to extra care for them. And that's also why knights who began to learn the Christian ideal of chivalry from Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. he came up with that. They would spend a night vigil praying before an altar of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and that
Before
they
their
would,
knighting.
yeah, before they could receive knighthood. And the idea is to learn respect for women and of their dignity, and that they may not take advantage of women. Cads do that, and scoundrels.
Can you imagine if soldiers in our day and time spent an hour in adoration before an altar of Our Lady?
Yeah.
What kind of a force that army would be?
Yeah. No, it would be, and one of the things that, I'd like to see the general population, not just the soldiers, because there's a lot of disrespect for women. And this is something that we need to have. It's one of the advantages of devotion to Our Lady. As a matter of fact, I mentioned last week how I was so upset about the Pachamama statues being put in the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and that one of the suggestions I had made as an act of reparation is to become enrolled and to, for those who are enrolled, to wear more prominently, or at least to wear their scapulars. Since it's Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church that was used that bad way. And I think that kind of devotion to Our Lady with the scapular of Mount Carmel, as well as other forms of devotion to her, will very much have helped the West improve its attitude towards women. And then here's a question from someone named Joe. Father, what would be a good penance for someone who was a lapsed Catholic but received communion unworthily for many years and has now returned to the church and has gone to confession but was thought to do additional penance and reparation for that sin? Perfect penance would be spend extra time every week at least in adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. That would be an antidote to that, to poor communions. Spend time with our Eucharistic Lord and just come to know him and love him, so that you don't just see, well, I broke a rule. No, you did that. But why is it a rule? Well, you have to understand who is present there. It's Jesus Christ, truly present, and we adore Jesus. Here's another quick one from Mona. Does going to an Eastern Orthodox Mass, or what they call Divine Liturgy, satisfy the Latin rite and vice versa? Can I receive communion in the Eastern Orthodox Church, even though I'm a Latin rite person? In case of an emergency, where say that there are no Catholic churches. A friend of mine was in Irkutsk in Russia. And
Not Yakutsk, but Irkutsk.
Irkutsk. And he was 1,500 miles away from the closest Catholic church. And because they do have authentic priesthood from the apostolic succession, they have the true Blessed Sacrament, and it is truly a sacrifice. Yes, going to their Divine Liturgy satisfies the Sunday obligation. However, as far as receiving communion, you have to let the Orthodox priest know that you're Catholic. You don't presume it. We would accept it, but they may not, and usually they don't. You show respect. You know that if they don't, that's absolutely fine. That they are guardians of the authenticity of their Eucharist, and we show nothing but respect.
And our obligation is to attend the liturgy, not to receive the Eucharist.
That's right. And then, let's see. If, that's a long one. Let me just do a short one. If we came from Adam and Eve, then where did primitive man fit into things and the dinosaurs? Thank you for reading this. Well, dinosaurs are millions of years earlier. Now, there is a mention in the book of Genesis, chapter 1. It's the translations say sea monsters, but the word sea is not there. It's just monsters. And, I've hunted alligators who are close to descendants of as close to dinosaurs as we get in modern times. And I would not want to be around the dinosaurs. They were huge monsters, most of them, and they are not particularly bright, and they want to eat you. And so, this is something you have to be careful. But yeah, they were 135 million years ago. I think that's about right. And sharks are even older, and so are alligator garfish, older than dinosaurs. So it's good to know this past, but Homo sapiens sapiens is only 200,000-300,000 years, so not that long ago.
EWTN's Open Line Wednesday with Father Mitch Pacwa.
I'm Jeanette DeMello, Editor-in-Chief of the National Catholic Register and co-host of Register Radio with Matthew Bunson. Join us every week as we talk with the Register's expert writers and editors about the news you need to know and offer authentic Catholic insights on the important stories that impact your life. Register Radio, every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, here on EWTN Global Catholic Radio.
Father Benedict Rochelle.
I must tell you that from what I observe from very young people, all of these blasphemers, all of these mockers are in for a tough time. Because the devil bites his own tail. And I find among young people a growing reverence and longing for God. I find a decline in the cynicism and skepticism around. Because it had to destroy itself. No one can live on being an enemy of God. It's too crazy. It's too absurd. It's too dark. It's too bleak. God is beautiful. God is holy. Why in the world mock God?
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question, call 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 1-833-288-3986. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. Or send us an email to openline@ewtn.com.
You know, we have this serrated bread knife in the drawer at my house, and have had it forever. And, you can barely cut paper with it. I mean, it's just, there's no danger involved in it at all. And I have this really nice set of knives.
Yeah.
And I remembered this morning, I said, you know what, there's a little smaller serrated bread knife in there. Yeah. And I darn near lopped my finger off.
Well, that's because it's dull.
It wasn't dull.
Oh, it wasn't dull?
No, that's why I almost cut my finger off, because it went right through that bagel. I'm used to having to put a little elbow grease into it. Didn't have to put any elbow grease into this. And
well, be careful.
So, yeah, live and learn.
Don't you kids play with knives.
833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. Anna Mitchell and Matt Swaim don't play with knives. You can check them out tomorrow on the Sunrise Morning Show, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. They'll be bringing you more updates from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops' fall meeting. Pastoral Counselor Kevin Pendergrass on healing from trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. All of that tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on the Sunrise Morning Show right here on EWTN Radio. First up today is Kelly in Denver, Colorado. She's listening on the Catholic Radio Network. Kelly, thanks for holding. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I have a question about the forgiveness of venial sins during Mass.
Yeah.
And so that's the first part of it. And at the beginning of the Mass, I can't think of the part, well, you're a priest.
The penitential rite.
And then the second part is, penitential rite. And then does that apply if we are either listening to the Mass or watching it on TV.
When we're watching Mass on TV, in general, it's not at all the same, especially and certainly not if it is a rerun, because the tape machine can't be
Store graces.
No. Now, I would imagine yes, for this reason. I've never heard that question about the televised or broadcast Mass before, but certainly the Church recognizes that when it is live, that you receive the blessing from the priest. So since that's the case, I would imagine that would be true if you're watching a live Mass or listening on radio. I've never heard that posed before. But it certainly is true if you're present at Mass, and I guess it'd be parallel to, I'm guessing if there's any liturgical experts, do call in. But
I think you're probably right, because it applies to us right here at EWTN, whether you're in the chapel or whether you're in St. Michael's Hall. I think it's the same situation.
That's our overflow halls. Yeah, that's as much as I know, Kelly, because, again, you're asking questions about media and things like that as if I know. But it's not, I don't think they've thought much about that. I've never even heard it discussed. So I'm going to make up that answer as a good guess based on the principle that you do receive the priest's blessing or the Pope's blessing. If you're watching the papal blessing live at 3 a.m. our time zone, then you receive his blessing. So, but not on the reruns, because that would mean the machine is blessing. You can't do that.
Does that work for you, Kelly?
Yes, and actually there are some shows on EWTN where the priest says, I offer this blessing to all who are watching.
Yeah.
And so, and some of those are so old, and I just like to pretend that he's still blessing
well,
me.
You can still get, and you can still bless yourself. You make the sign of the cross, you're blessing yourself, and that's an indulgence prayer too.
God bless you, Kelly. Thanks so much for that phone call. 833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. We head now to Brighton, Michigan. Michelle is in Brighton listening to EWTN on Sirius XM Channel 130, a first-time caller. Do they still have that ski area in Brighton, Michelle?
Yes, they do.
Oh, I spent many a good evening there. You're on with Father Mitch.
Well, I'll just preface this by saying I have 5 kids, and they're all growing up very quickly.
Yeah,
my
they do
middle
that.
son is. They do. So my middle son is 24. We've been very fortunate that he was able to get a great job right out of college that pays his own bills.
Good.
And he's been dating someone for 5 years, and the last year of the 5 years, they were in different towns. And so in June, he said, well, we're going to move in together. I have no intention of getting married at this point in my life. We're going to figure it out to see if we're right for each other. I'm very upset.
Well, so your question is what?
How should I behave? I told him we would have no part of it, and we didn't agree with it.
Yeah.
Terrible example to my other 2 children that are younger than him.
What would you do, Jack?
What?
You've got kids?
I would talk to that young lady, and I would tell her she is weak.
There's that, and I would, she may not. Does she know that he has no intention of getting married to her?
Well, that's what I doubt that.
Yeah.
He and her parents have been doing everything they could to get him to marry her for 5 years now. They quote from her, I think my grandmother likes him more than she likes me. They adore him.
Yeah. that's fine if they want to marry him, but she's got to do that. And she's got, I've said this lots of times to young ladies and their parents. It's a question. Do you know how to domesticate wild cattle?
No.
Very simple. They're not real bright. You go out into the pastures. Well, they wouldn't even be in pastures. These would be out in the wild. These are cattle that never been around people. And you get out there on horseback, you round them up, and you drive them for 3 days. And during that 3 days of driving them, you don't let them come to get a drink. You just keep them moving. On the 4th day, you lead them to water. And at that point, they're yours. Tell that young lady that men are no different than those cattle. If she wants him, then she's got to say no until he is exhausted. But if she moves in with him and is sharing intimacy with him, she'll never get the wildness out of him. Just like you can't, if you let the cattle go get a drink before that 3 days, you won't get the wildness out of them. And that's what you do. Does that make sense?
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. It does. So when she comes to our house, she's really nice to my face, but she's very competitive, and she talks about me to my other children, which they are not happy about at all.
All right, you need to confront her on that.
Think so?
No, ma'am. I don't think so.
None of my other kids.
Ma'am, I know so. If your other children are complaining, and they don't like it, that you're talking about our mom, then you don't make them the go-between. You go ahead and you say, young lady, I know you're sweet to me on the outset, but you're not Eddie Haskell of girls. Don't talk nice to me to my face and then badmouth me behind my back to my own children. You won't even be welcome for dinner if you keep that up. You have to have that little tete-a-tete with her and let her know this is the way life is around here. I'm the mom. And undercutting me with my other children because you know that I'm on to this nonsense you and my son are doing, and I think it's nonsense. No, you you don't do that. You take that on, Michelle. That's not a time to be nice. It's time to be good. And in this case, being nice pushes off the problem. Being good confronts it directly, and you deal with her.
833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. That's the number Amy used in Plymouth, Massachusetts. She's a first-time caller, also listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Amy, what is your question today for Father Mitch?
Hi, Father Mitch. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. What can we possibly do for you this fine day?
Well, I have a question about Matthew chapter 17, verse 21. Sometimes in some Bibles I've seen it verse 20 as well. I was trying to look up a reference to give to a friend, and we were talking about how important it is to have both prayer and fasting, or prayer and sacrifice. And so I went to go look up that verse, and when I Googled it, at one point it came up as a reference, and then I went to look further to get the exact wording, and I realized it wasn't in there. And I thought, well, maybe this is a Christian Bible, and maybe, some things get taken out here or there or whatnot. And so I went to look for my Catholic Bibles, too, and a lot of them also had that verse taken out. And they referenced another one. They said, please see, I forget, was it Mark chapter 9 or something like that? But
yes,
that
Mark
one
9:29.
Yeah, and I was concerned because it seems like that's the only place in the Bible where Jesus talks about prayer and fasting and the importance of it, and being Catholic.
All right, well, let me respond. Pull up the reins on that horse for a second there now. Amy, let's get down to it. Mark 9:29 has that line in it, but the oldest manuscripts of St. Matthew's Gospel do not. Some of the later ones have it, and this is where scholars, debate a little bit. Some of them think that a copyist had it by memory from Mark 9:29, and then when he copied Matthew 17:21, added it in. So that's all that's going on there. So use the Mark 9, because you're right to be focusing on the both together, but Mark 9:29 has it in its full, and may well be that in Matthew 17 it just wasn't in the original, but it was added by a later copyist.
EWTN's Open Line Wednesday rolls on with Father Mitch Pacwa.
Dr. Ray Garindi.
Be grateful that you came to the faith when you did. Let the children see what mom is like now compared to how they were raised before mom or dad came to the faith.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is an EWTN bookmark brief. I just had the pleasure of speaking with Father Leo Petalinghug about his latest book, Saving the Family, The Transformative Power of Sharing Meals with People You Love, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, published by Sophia Institute Press. Let's get an overview of this particular book, how it's different than your prior work.
This book is a how-to practice the theology of food. And a lot of people think, what is this theology of food business? Well, the concept of God becoming food is for a reason, and that is to have communion with his family. And so what I want to do is show people how to have communion with your family, and in so doing, save them.
Father Leo Petalinghug, and again, the book is Saving the Family, The Transformative Power of Sharing Meals with People You Love. Worth checking out. Available through our EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. And this has been a bookmark brief. Thanks for stopping by.
All my life, I was searching for something that seemed to be just one step away. Perfect soulmate, the ideal job, that big adventure. And just when I thought I found what I was missing, I realized that I was never really fulfilled. Then I discovered what I was searching for was really faith in God and belonging to a church. You can find what you've been searching for too. Come and see at CatholicsComeHome.com.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Later today on Catholic Answers Live, Father Wade Menezes on the sacraments and Sister Miriam James Heidland on the healing power of Christ. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Open Line with Father Mitch Pacwa.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. During the break, we're talking about, of all things, body surfing in Lake Michigan.
In November.
Back to the phones we go. Ray is next up, another first-time caller. He is in Bremerton, Washington, listening on the EWTN app. Ray, you are on with Father Mitch.
Thank you. God bless you, Father. You're a living saint.
Oh, well,
I look up to you very much.
Yeah, I wouldn't push that with a lot of folks I live with, but I do love Bremerton. What a great place. It's an island. It's on an island out there. I was visiting a friend and spent some time going on the ferries to the different islands, and it was really cool. So, what can we do for you today,
Father? If I'm putting you on the spot, please don't answer this question.
Okay.
So hopefully you can give me direction. I'm kind of confused with the current papacy and certain cardinals having different views. Confused to the point. I'm a studious Catholic. I go to marriages church. I go to confessions frequently. So it's like, and I apologize for this question, Father. I look up to you so much. I feel all this confusion, and with the current papacy, and Pope Francis is a good guy, and I understand where he's coming from. He wants mercy for all. I feel like, okay, then maybe I don't need to be a Catholic. All I need to do is be a good person and love all. And so if you can give me direction, and again, I was mentored. I'm actually in the military. I'm stationed up here.
I thought you might be.
For 6 years.
Yeah, because that's
I was mentored by the Jesuits in San Diego. I know all the priests down there.
Oh, yeah, right? Oh, good.
When
Lady
Pope
Guadalupe?
First was like, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's something, Ray.
Yes, Father.
Take a look, especially you as a military man right now. Take a look at what's going on in Washington today. There's a lot of disputation between the president and some members of Congress, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of upset, and people are, blaming and accusing and back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean that you should be sort of laid back and not, well, I might as well just sort of get some Canadian citizenship or something, or no, right?
Right. Yeah.
If anything, what we see in Washington is best met by us learning exactly what does impeachment mean. What does the Constitution say on this? And let me understand who's doing this and why. In other words, I need to understand the basic principles of the Constitution more clearly in the face of people having these accusations back and forth across each other's bows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't tempt me to be less American in the face of this confusion, but rather to learn more about some of the other impeachments that have taken place and to understand the history and the role. In parallel, we live in fairly confusing times on lots of levels. Lots of levels.
You ain't kidding, Father.
And in the face of that, the best way is to go to the basic principles, go back to those principles and learn them better. And that applies to the faith. So for us, with all these different folks yelling back and forth and sometimes doing crazy things, we need to understand the catechism better. With the, say all this Pachamama stuff. Understand where they're coming from with it. And then go back to understanding the first commandment against having idols, and also understand, other basic principles of our faith and what the saints did. And that, keeping that focus on what I have to have as my basic Catholic faith, is going to be the antidote to the confusion. I think in the face of it, this is a good principle of discernment right now. St. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 14 that God is not a God of confusion, but of order and peace. And in the face of the confusion, we have to pull back from it. When you're in, I don't know what you do in the military, but one of the things that any good general needs to do is withdraw to get an overview of the battle and see what's going on, and then correct anything that needs correcting. Go into the places where things are weak or deal with the strengths and so on. We have to do the same. We have to be more battle ready. And the confusion is from the enemy of our souls. St. Ignatius makes that clear in his rules for discernment in the spiritual exercises. The enemy of our soul uses confusion to get us into a state of desolation. And we then have to take the antidote to the confusion by seeking clarity of our Catholic faith. And then with that clarity, we go forward. That would be my recommendation, Ray. Does that sound all right?
Okay. Yes, Father, it does.
Yeah, think of this, that, again, from a military image, that getting yourself backed up is getting info and supplies. And this is what you need in these situations. And then we'll let the cardinals and the Pope fight among themselves. But for us, let's get clarity and then move forward.
833-288-EWTN. We've actually got a line open for you at 833-288-3986. Tony's in San Antonio, Texas, listening to EWTN on Guadalupe Radio. Tony, you're on with Father Mitch.
Hey, Father, how are you?
Fine as frog hair. How you doing over there in San Antonio?
Good, good. You were talking about leading cattle to water, and it reminded me of an old Laurel and Hardy quote. And they said, you can lead a horse to water, but a pencil is always lead.
Not a truer statement was said. Go ahead. What else you got there besides those old quotes?
I notice sometimes when we're praying the rosary, especially down here with the Mexican Americans and along the border, at the Glory Be, most of the older Hispanic people tend to make a sign of the cross at the Glory Be when we're saying the rosary. And also when se persignan, when they bless themselves, they kiss their fingers and make a cross with their two fingers.
Right.
And I look at other masses all around the world, and I really don't see those two things happening. Is that a cultural thing?
Oh, yeah. Very much so. Very much so. And you also see a lot of people from the Oriental churches. By Oriental, I mean Middle Eastern, like Maronites and Syriac and others. Cross our. I do that. I cross myself as I say the Glory Be, and it's a custom that I've seen among Benedictines, that they cross themselves as they say the Glory Be to the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So it's cultural, and there's nothing against it. There's nothing that demands it. It's very much cultural, but it helps to remind us that as we praise God, we do well to also remind ourselves of the cross, especially in a culture that sometimes wants to omit the cross.
Does that help, Tony?
Wonderful. You guys have a great day. God bless.
You too.
All right,
Appreciate
you too.
that call.
Hopefully
that opens up a line for
warm up.
you. Yep, that opens up a line for you at 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. When he said he saw some of the older Hispanics making the sign of the cross during the Glory Be, I was almost interrupted and said, well, I know a middle-aged Polish priest that does the same thing.
Yes. Middle age. I think I graduated.
I'm trying to show some deference to my good friend.
Yeah, I just deal with reality.
Still time for your calls at 833-288-EWTN. Next up is John in Xenia, Kansas, listening to EWTN on the Catholic Radio Network. John, thanks for holding. You're on with Father Mitch.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Father.
Yes, sir. What do we have for you?
Well, my question, just want to pick your brain on it. I don't think it's mandatory for my salvation of my soul, but it's in Genesis chapter 31, verse 43 and 44. Is about Laban and Jacob after they were going to split up, where Laban says, these daughters are mine, the children are mine, the flocks are mine, everything you see is mine. And that's all the stuff that Jacob had worked for many years. And I just don't see if the guy's just blowing smoke, or is he? What's behind the story on that? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I do.
In your brain.
Yeah. If you look a little bit
okay.
you see that, let's see, where did that start? Notice in verse 34. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat upon them. Laban felt all around the tent but did not find them. And she said to her father, let not my lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me. So he searched but did not find the household gods. And here's what's going on there. Those images were the indicate in Middle Bronze Age culture. Having those particular images were a way of indicating possession. And this was, let me get the right word for them. All right, so that, there's another word than the one that's used here. But at any rate, having possession of those, they were made out of clay, and possession of those meant that you had the right to inherit the father's property. Now, during the time that Jacob was working for his uncle Laban and building his flocks and everything else, and getting his family going, Uncle Laban had some sons. Apparently, his first children were the daughters, Rachel and Leah. And then later on, he had some sons. Now, Rachel is taking those images and she's taking them with as if to say, I now own the rights to inherit. I'm older than the boys, and just because they're boys doesn't mean that they can have it. So she takes teraphim. That's the word I was looking for. Teraphim. She takes the teraphim, and she keeps them to say, I can inherit my dad's property, whereas he wants to make sure that his sons have proof that they should inherit it. And that's what's going on at this point. Does that help?
Well, pretty much. It heads me in the right direction, but Laban wasn't aware of where these idols were.
Yeah,
he didn't find them.
That's right. He knows, but that's why he's complaining. Hey, this stuff is all mine. In other words, I have the right to let my sons inherit, and now my daughters and son-in-law are taking them. That's the dispute going on there.
God bless you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll read it and think about it a little bit.
Think about that, because you have to see this in the context of Middle Bronze Age law. Even later law in the Old Testament was different. When the Old Testament law is written, it's early Iron Age, and they have a different system of law. At this point, this is what's going on here. It's property inheritance rights, and that's the dispute. Okay? All right.
Thank you, John. We appreciate that phone call. 833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. You know, we always advocate that you listen to EWTN Radio on one of our wonderful affiliates around the United States, some 350 strong. But if you're ever in a situation inside a basement or somewhere where you just can't pick up that radio station, EWTN is available on most of your smart speakers like Amazon Echo. You can simply ask Alexa to ask EWTN to play Call to Communion, or ask EWTN to listen to the previous episode of Open Line Wednesday. Check it out today. EWTN Radio available on most smart speaker systems. 833-288-3986 is our toll-free number. Next up is Cecilia in Jackson, Michigan, listening to us on Good Shepherd Radio. Cecilia, you are on with Father Mitch.
Hi, thank you, Father Mitch, for taking this call. Here's my question. what do you think will have to happen within the church before the Holy See gives full canonical status to those priests of Society of St. Pius X?
Yeah, I suspect, since the dispute came up when Archbishop Lefebvre, consecrated 3 men as bishops without having papal approval, that I suspect, I'm no canon lawyer by any means, but I suspect that their willingness to say, we won't, nominate any bishops without Vatican approval. That would be one thing, and that they have to accept that the Pope really is Pope, and that it's not an empty see. And you have a variety of folks. Not everybody agrees about some of these things, but in the SSPX, Society of St. Pius X, for those need to know that, this is a way to make sure that they really want to stay in union with the church and they get incorporated to it. That would be the things I suspect. You might want to take a look at the Fraternity of St. Peter, Confraternity of St. Peter, that who had been in that room, but now they're in union with the Vatican, and they do the extraordinary form, as normal for them. That's their go-to celebration of the liturgy. And, to look to them as a way to say, this is the kind of agreement that was made, we accept that, and so we're accepted within the church. That would be something that I would look to as a model. Does that help, Cecilia?
Yes, thanks, Father Mitch. Have a good day.
All right, you do the same.
Next up is Natalia in Grove Spring, Missouri, listening to EWTN on Catholic Radio Network. Natalia, you're on with Father Mitch.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I have a kind of a personal situation that happened to me last week. So I went to confession on Thursday. I struggle with a bad temper, and back forward to Sunday, going to Mass. My children and husband got me really irritated. So we made it to Mass, and I sat there, and I just kept fuming with irritation. And they knew that I was irritated at them, and they knew that I had just gone to confession Thursday. But I chose not to take communion because I still felt so frustrated with them. And I really regret it because I wasn't sure if I fell into mortal sin with my anger or...
Did you threaten to kill anybody?
No,
No.
I wanted... No, not really.
There might be some kids that you might want to shake a little bit. And
Yes.
yeah. And, this is something that, there's a game that kids play where they want to get you as mad as they can, and then they go over the line. They don't understand exactly, and that's why some mothers want to throttle their oldest son. I mean, their kids.
Yeah.
As I recall hearing, because you just push too far, and then it goes over, and it's kids sort of see that, oh, I got mom mad, but then I think it was too mad, and so. Here's the thing that, you didn't get a chance to reconcile, and you were really upset. It doesn't sound like you committed a mortal sin, that you could have received communion, but in that state of agitation, you didn't have peace of heart and mind. And at a quiet moment, not when you're angry or they are acting up, but in a quiet moment, to say, this is how you affect me. We need to do this stuff. And I rethink some of this. So that they need to be called out on it. Of course, I'm sure you have, but I think to let them know and that this is how you affect them, and do it in another moment when you're not angry. Being angry at your kids is not bad because sometimes that's the only thing they understand. But losing control of your anger is different. And to always keep in mind that you can use your anger to correct them as they need it. But you do it not because it makes me feel like I got something out of my system, but rather I direct my anger for their good. And that takes a lot of time to figure out and do, but that is, again, I taught high school and saw the same things going on. They would do stuff to aggravate you on purpose because they can, and they think it's a game. And so what you have to do is figure out, here's going to be my go-to response when they're doing this. And, something, you aggravate me as we're getting ready to go to church. Here's going to be your consequences. Think of that ahead of time, let them know ahead of time, and then don't hold back in doing it. So you guys are going to do all the dishes for Sunday dinner or something, whatever it is.
Susan is in New Orleans, Louisiana, a first-time caller listening on Catholic Community Radio. Susan, a couple minutes left with Father Mitch. What's your question?
Hey, just a quick one. Thank you for taking my call. What does it mean to be devout?
Okay, and it simply means it comes, it's a form of the word devoted, and being devout means you show devotion. That is, you do those kind of acts of the spiritual life, not out of habit, but out of a sincere commitment to loving our Lord all the more. And that's all that you do with that. Very simple.
Thanks, Susan. We appreciate that. And Father Mitch, in the last minute or so we have left here, Richard in Poplarville, Mississippi, wants to know how to handle an anti-Catholic preacher.
I wish I knew Richard, if you can call next week, I want to put you up to the front. I want to find out what the preacher's doing. Here's one of the questions that being anti-Catholic should not be confused with being pro-Jesus. What we want you, preacher, to do is be pro-Jesus. And being anti-Catholic's not really helping us in this whole realm. And if anything, we have a lot more in common in opposing the ways of the world today and its inroads in our culture to bring a culture of death, etc. And so we need your help. But Richard, if you can call back next week, sorry that we got you so late, but call and we'll try to get you up early in the show, and I'd like to address some of that because that's always important.
Father Mitch, would you leave us with a blessing?
Yes. Lord, bless that preacher and everybody else who is listening or not listening. Bless in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. On behalf of our host, Father Mitch Pacwa, producer Michael McCall, our call screener Ryan Penny, and our social media maven, Mr. Jeff Burson, I'm Jack Williams. Thanks so much for tuning in. Back at it tomorrow. Father Larry Richards is in the house. Until then, God bless.